Hey everybody, this is Laura DiCarlo of Career Directors International, and we're talking all things ultimate success without the stress for resume writers and career coaches. And I'm super excited to have you join me today. So we're currently streaming on CDI's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and LinkedIn page. But this is really important. If you're streaming on Facebook, please go to chat.restream.io/FB. And let me put that up there on the bottom of the screen. You want to give Restream permission by going to chat.restream.io/FB. That way I will know who you are and I won't just see Facebook user if you comment in the chat. All right, you're probably seeing my little cat. I'm not going to put her image up on the screen here because she keeps popping her head up. That is my supervisor, Tallulah Ka, and she is very vocal in her opinions. So be prepared if you hear any howling, crying, talking, or just trying to join our conversation. That's our little beast. This is our regular Wednesday show where I'll be empowering resume writers and career coaches to up their game with advanced technical skills, business shortcuts, and strategies to succeed with ease. This season, we've been focused on learning what's working and what's not in career industry businesses today by tapping into the results of CDI's recent critical industry analysis survey. And hey, if you don't know me yet, my goal is to become your not so secret superpower. At Career Directors International, we provide all the tools, scripts, done for you resources, training, and support you need to love and excel at what you do so you can make a difference while earning an exceptional living. And something really important, if you're not yet an association member or part of our Career Industry Accelerator Club, I want to stress to you that registration closes for both programs next Friday, December 15th. We do have some special offers still going on those, and if you visit the website, you'll be able to see the banner for them. But on the 15th, when it closes, you'll only be able to get on the wait list. And nobody wants their future success and that of their clients to be dependent on something they have to wait for. So get in there now with us. So today's topic is busting through barriers and bashing imposter syndrome to reach your goals. I'm super excited to talk about this one and share 5 strategies I have for you today. But before we do that, I'm going to challenge you, as always, to do 3 things. First, let me know in the chat who you are. Let me go over to the chat now so I have it in front of me. Hey, I see Arisha already says, hey, Laura, good to see you. Hi, Arisha. Hi, Ari. So excited to have you join me. Have a friendly, familiar face. If you are brand new to me, drop me a hashtag newbie. And if you are one of my soups, you can superheroes, career superheroes, you can either comment like Ari and Robbie. Hi, Robbie. Hi, Janine, have done, or give me a hashtag soups for career superhero. All right, and again, important, remember, if you're streaming on Facebook, go to chat.restream.io/FB so you can give permission for me to see your name. Second, if you have questions, if you can throw the word question at the beginning in the chat, it's easier for me to catch something important is popping up, but we're going to roll with it either way. And finally, third, if you want to make sure you don't miss my show, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss when I go live every week. That's 3:45 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. All right, so I left the topic up on the screen there, how to bust through barriers and bash imposter syndrome to reach your goals. And let me just take that down so I don't get distracted by it. Okay, so since the show started, which I don't know if you can believe it or not, 8 weeks already, we've been talking about success strategies for your business. We've talked about AI and dispelled the myth that it was actually hurting resume writers and career coaches, except for those at the lowest revenue levels, pricing levels, where job seekers might look at it as comparable to the DIY, and thus why waste the money when there's free ChatGPT and other AI platforms. But otherwise, we found that most practices were growing or at least staying the same in terms of revenue this year. And we've discussed how marketing and your willingness to change what you're doing and adapt to today's engagement society was truly at the root of where success could be found. We've dug very deeply into the top 3 highest ROI marketing strategies being used by industry pros who are either growing or maintaining. Those were customer referrals, partnerships, and professional referrals, and posting on LinkedIn and engaging on LinkedIn. And here we are today, filled up with all these great strategies that are helping many career industry professionals to rocket ahead. So let me ask, if you've gotten some mileage out of the strategies I've shared, or you are already using them successfully, give me a hashtag yes or something similar in the chat. And while you're thinking about that, I will continue talking. So skills are critical. You can have all the skills in the world, but does it absolutely set you up for success? No, not always, because our thoughts and our beliefs, these systems, no matter how much we want to achieve something, they can be paralyzing. All right, Janine says yes, and Ari says yes. Awesome, awesome. Thanks, ladies. I'm so glad to have you here chiming in with me. So it's true, old ways won't open new doors, but the wonderful, sorry, I have so many, this is an exciting topic to me because I love the opportunity to like bust through barriers that we have. But that's the thing. So often we're told, you just need to post up positive affirmations and tell yourself how great you are. But that doesn't actually rewire anything for us. We might need to hear the right trigger or identify the thought and the belief that's actually holding us back and rewrite it, or take some bold action cloaked in a safety net so we can slip it past our thought system and do it and be surprised on the back end of, oh, look, I did it. So everybody is different. And that's why today I'm sharing 5 strategies I've used with private clients and groups of either job seekers or career industry entrepreneurs to bash through blockers such as imposter syndrome. Ari says mindset. I think about Simone Biles. That does not ring a bell for me. I'm going to need to know more. So tell me more. Okay, so the 5 ways I'm going to be discussing today and giving you examples and strategies on are visualization, modeling, or what I refer to as acting as if, doing it, just doing it, and I actually have a process for just doing it, FOMO, or the fear of missing out, and how we make that work for us, and then an actual 6-step busting beliefs exercise that is incredibly powerful that we're going to end on. Janine says, mindset, absolutely agree with Ari. Yeah, mindset is critical, but there's so much that comes into play with our mindset, things that get in the way that don't even belong to us, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So first strategy I'm going to talk about is visualization. And if you have used visualization in the past successfully, sure, please let me know in the chat. But visualization is one of the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming techniques that I have used and that I happen to very much really like. It's what I actually had to adopt when I first started my private practice as a resume writer and career coach. Let's see, Aria says, the multiple gold medal gymnast who got into a bad mindset and needed to leave a competition to get her head straight. Now she's back. Oh, awesome. I'm sure I probably am familiar with it and the name just wasn't ringing a bell. Okay, so in my private practice, I'm so always honest with you guys. I was terrified of the phone ringing. I mean, back in the day, we're talking in the mid 90s, in my 20s, having this private practice, and the phone was how people reached you. So every time the phone would ring, I was like Pavlov's dog. My heart would pound and I would panic. I really was like, I knew they wanted to know, how much does it cost? And I mean, they just wanted a service, but in my head, I was like picturing this, how much do you want for this? And I'm waiting to be robbed. And I would get myself so worked up that you get the idea. So luckily, I was devouring everything I could back then to learn and grow because I wanted self-employment to work so much. But obviously, this was a really big barrier if I couldn't even answer the phone without totally, panicking. So I stumbled upon the book, The 1 Minute Salesperson by Spencer Johnson. It's a very thin book. It was a really quick read, but there's a whole section on visualization that was totally life-changing for me. So here's the deal. If you've never done NLP techniques and you've never tried visualization, to me, it totally sounds woo-woo. Like, really, I'm going to visualize something and bring it into being. But here's the deal. Our brains are incredibly powerful computers. They take in information and they process it based on the experiences, filters that we run our data through. And I say filters because we all have different filters. We don't all see things the same way or experience them the same way. And this seems to happen instantly, how we make connections based on past experiences. So for me, phone rang, sense danger, freak out. I needed to implant a different story for my brain to believe. And luckily we can, because for all our brain's power, if you paint a picture clearly enough and specifically enough and repeatedly, your brain will believe it is true. So based on the book and the advice therein, I started doing nightly visualization practice. I'm not going to walk you through the entire 15 to 30 minutes. I'm just going to set up the construct for you. This meant about 15 to 30 minutes each night. And I think I did this over a period of about 2 weeks is what I needed. I would sit or lie quietly, and then I would envision the phone ringing. And I would go through the entire process, kind of fast forwarded over this 15 to 30 minute period of engaging with this prospect from the moment they asked me about price, going through, meeting them for the consultation, and they hung on every word I said, and they loved it, and they thought I was the most amazing creature, and oh, how so grateful to find me, and oh, what a reasonable price, and really hammering home every single step of the way, where a lot of times, even though we have great successes with our clients, I can remember talking to a group of six-figure performers, and none of them were following up with their clients because they felt like no news was good news. So it doesn't matter how successful you are. We all have these little voices that can come into play and make us doubt ourselves. So I just really lined it up from the minute the phone rang to the minute they left my office and were excitedly telling colleagues and whatnot. The whole thing in as much detail as possible on fast forward, so I could do it every single night. And it worked for me because I got more and more confident about it. And I obviously, most of you know my story. I was closing $1,200 to $1,500 sales with all levels of clients, 90+% of the time, by the 2.5-year mark of my business. So somehow I made that work, but it was huge. So I have to ask, has anybody else tried visualization? Please let me know in the chat. And while you're thinking about that, I just want to give you a quick example of it working for you. So if you'll humor me and close your eyes for a second, I want you to think that you just cut a lemon in half, or maybe you've got a wedge of lemon. All right, so you grab a wedge of lemon. I want you to put the wedge of lemon in your mouth, and I want you to bite down on it. I actually have chills down my arms because when I imagine biting into a lemon, I have an incredibly visceral response. I actually feel the pucker. And that sensation, you didn't actually just bite into a lemon, but this powerful thing you have up here believes that you did. It could immediately bring back the visceral reaction to biting into a lemon. I think that's super cool. So if you can do that, you can certainly convince your brain that you can do something scary. So if you like that idea, let me know. Say, Ari says, I use it in my workshops with clients. It's incredible. It really is. There's nothing woo-woo about it. Super powerful. All right. Moving on to the second strategy. This is commonly known as modeling. I've always referred to it as acting as if, but modeling is probably a better word. I'm just going to have to start owning it. So early in my career, I had this incredible opportunity. I was tapped to set up and run a 6-week employability course and placement program for welfare to work adults who had completed a training course. So on the surface, my students were very vocal about resenting being there and having to look for work. And if this is not your reality, it can be hard to understand and easy to judge people who think and have experienced life differently from you. Teachers would come to me and try to tell me who, quote, the bad seeds were, and I would be all, no, I don't want to know. Thanks to motivational speakers like Zig Ziglar, I believed that, I didn't want to frame opinions of people and let my brain judge them. I wanted to believe they were infinitely possible to accomplish anything if they were just given the right environment to prove it. So as a lifelong learner, it was also an absolute blessing at that time that I was working on advanced degree in HR and training and development. And at that point, we were looking into reaching individuals with different learning styles. Plus, I was new to running a program like this. I mean, I literally came from resume writing and had been told, you write a damn good resume. I'm quoting with the damn. You write a damn good resume, you'll learn the rest. And I was just thrown in. So I was consuming every book, course, association membership I could, while also tapping into former graduate studies in career counseling that emphasize psychometrics. Yes, I have pursued a lot of complementary graduate programs in my years. So I honestly can't tell you where this modeling concept came from. Was it Barbara Scher, who I consider to be the mother of career coaching? Or was it Dean Curtis's revolutionary approach to the transition from incarceration to work? I don't know. I just know that you can't motivate yourself to change your thinking and your experiences and thus your behaviors. But you can use the NLP technique of modeling to act as if you've already have that motivation and that new behavior by modeling someone else who you recognize as successful. So I know this is a lot, so let me explain. So at that time, many of my adult students were third generation welfare. They had experienced the world through a certain filter and didn't know any other way. Their role models did more to hold them down than to lift them up. And now suddenly they found themselves being expected to change everything they knew and they believed about themselves. There's no amount of telling them that they know enough, were enough, deserved it, or how it changed their life to magically break that programming. They had their own fears and beliefs, as do we all. And these can be incredibly blinding. So my believing in them and inspiring them and uplifting them was valuable, but if they didn't believe it, if they didn't own it, then nothing was going to change. So change comes from experiencing wins, but how do you ever get to the win to change the belief if you're stuck in the belief that's holding you back? I'm sure that I just said what I just said there is like, I feel it's profound because you're stuck in this circle, right? If anybody can relate to this, give me a hashtag yes or something in the chat. But so this is where acting as if or modeling so powerfully comes into play for any of us having to do something that we're scared to do or we don't believe is possible. So Janine says yes. So on a daily basis, as an example, many of us actually use modeling or acting as if without even knowing it. For instance, we know that when we feel bad, like say you have a really bad headache, but you're going in to run a Zoom meeting or meet with a client, you're still going to put a smile on your face and you're going to act like everything is great because you know that you won't close the sale or you'll make a bad impression on your boss or your colleagues or your students if you act the way you literally feel. So on a daily basis, a lot of us do modeling and acting as if without even knowing it. So let's see. Hi Linda says definitely, and Ari says, oh yeah. Okay, great. So I asked my students, and I'll challenge you to consider the same strategy. Who could you show up as to do that thing that so scares you and fills you with doubt? So, is there a character in a movie, a superhero, a real life hero, um, someone who you secretly wish you could be more like maybe you've watched them speaking or performing and you're like, I just wish I could be more like that person? Or kind of a more ironic end, I think of the Seinfeld episode where George Costanza decides that nothing he does works. Everything he does always fails him and ends up in total chaos. So in this episode, he does the exact opposite all day. So like whatever he would normally do, he does the opposite to the point of like ordering a different lunch. When this girl kind of seems to come on to him, he actually says, I'm an unemployed blah, blah, blah who still lives at home instead of spinning some lie. Now, I'm not purporting in any way that we lie here. Um, but it's such a great example because he modeled the fact that he knew that everything he did didn't work. So he would just do the exact opposite. And by the end of the episode, he'd landed his dream job and a date with a fancy girl. So to me, this is comedy, but there's, reality in when you ask yourself at each step, what would so-and-so do? And then you do that, you model that behavior, you take positive actions. So let's see. Ari says, just love using that Glennon Doyle phrase, we can do hard things. Yeah, we can do hard things. It's amazing what we are capable of. So we can take this into a client consultation. We can have a job seeker take it into an interview. What would my hero do? What would my hero say? My hero would make eye contact and walk with shoulders back and head lifted. My hero would smile and be confident and say all the right things. My hero wouldn't say maybe or can't. She or he would know that she could and would speak that way. And what happens when we show up modeling this confident, positive behavior? How do people respond to it? I'm going to say it because there's a delay in you commenting, but positively. Now, let's be really clear. I am not purporting that someone should go out and be or claim things they can't do or be. But it is 100% truth that so simple for us to let weasel words and behaviors sneak in to the things that we say and undermine our confidence and our ability. So, there's just no place for saying, I might be able to help you do that, or my clients are pretty successful. Or the example I think of with one of my students as I was, training them in those early days, I said, tell me about your typing skills. And because this was an administrative grad. And she said, I'm a pretty good typist. Now, I knew that she was a pretty amazing typist. And I'm like, all right, so let me tell you what I hear when I hear pretty good. I hear, I get by. I'm sort of okay. I hope you don't give me typing assignments. I'm like, but here's what I know about you. My typing skills, I'm an excellent typist. In my class, I was the fastest accurate typist at 140 accurate words per minute every single time. I know that in this role, if you give me assignments that require expedient typing, that I'm your girl and I will get it done for you. That was just riffing, of course, but what's the difference there? If we act as if we plan, if we remove the weasel words. All right, Janine says, when I started my business, I struggled, but then I reminded myself to do what I did when working and excelling for companies. I modeled that behavior in my own business, and that made a huge difference. Yes, exactly. Modeling your own prior experience, recognizing that you are still that super person who worked for someone else, now working for yourself. So when we model, this wonderful thing happens, and that People respond to you positively, so you feel positive. They say that you should surround yourself with the type of people you want to be. Well, when you act like the type of person you want to be, you get people to come to you who are the type of person you want to be. You feel more confident. Eventually, you're no longer modeling and acting, but you've built a muscle and you're just being. And it might seem simple, but modeling someone else really gives you the power to step into your greatness in the long run. And did it work for my students and everyone else who I've had the opportunity to play with it with over the years? Absolutely. In that placement program that would eventually become a business school to a college to a university, for the 7 years I ran the program, we were the highest placement rates out of 11 campuses in 2 countries. And I credit a lot of it to getting people to sneak past their thought systems and step into their greatness. I remember one student telling me one time that before she met me, she felt like she spent, and I'm quoting this because it touched my soul, that she felt like she had been living under a mushroom for the past 30 years and that I had helped her feel the sunlight for the first time. And I'm sorry to get emotional, but changing lives is what I do. That's what matters to me. It's what drives me. So if modeling sounds exciting to you, or if like Janine, you've used it, please let me know in the chat. I love the conversational part of this more than I like hearing myself speak. So, all right, I'm going to move on to the third, which is not NLP. And sorry, I'm not eating, just so you know. I've had the flu. This is day 12, and it's like it's never going to leave me. So I'm sucking on a lozenge and trying not to make myself cough. All right, so the third strategy is to create an environment for action. So back before we had life coaches and business coaches, we had people like Tony Robbins, and we had psychologists and sociologists. And I studied Tony and all the motivational greats, but I was really blessed to know a psychologist. She was actually a customer in my parents' video store. Oh gosh, that really dates me. But back when there were VHS and beta and Laserdisc rentals, yes. Anyway, she was a customer and I got to know her, and she turned me on to the work of Jane Nielsen, who is simply brilliant with her work around thoughts and beliefs and getting past our thought system and our rose-colored glasses and all that. And I really, I made flashcards from the book, and I learned so much, and it changed a lot for me in, being wired positively and not negatively. But despite that I had a more positive outlook and belief in myself, I still could not motivate myself to do my schoolwork. It was like I always had this, obviously I wanted to do something else, which is a lot of times what we think about parts of our job that we don't want to do when we have a business or a job search. It's like, well, I just want to ignore that because I'd rather not have to deal with those pieces. But where does that get us? As a college student, that left me floundering because I had no adult supervision, make my own schedule, course attendance is not mandatory. But very quickly, I was not doing very well. And I was having a conversation with this, she was actually a psychiatrist now that I think about it. And she gave me some really good advice that's just very cut and dried. And for some of you analytical types, this might be exactly what you need to hear. She said to me, I want you to go, when you get back to school, I want you to go to your dorm room. And I had a private dorm room. So she's like, I want you to go to your dorm room. I want you to put a sign on the door that says, do not disturb. I want you to shut off any interruptions. So today those interruptions would be like your phone ringer should be off, and any app notifications that come in on whatever device you're looking at should be off. Sounds, if you have to shut your phone off because everything has a sound to it, shut it off. Remove every single distraction, set a timer for at least an hour, and force yourself to do that thing. And this was probably the hardest thing I ever did at the time. I know that probably was like, well, Laura, you had a really hard life, but I think just things had come easily to me, and I was, up until that point, like I said, you had to go to high school. I was early enrollment college, but I did it from home, so my parents always knew what I was up to. When somebody takes the training wheels off, like if you go from job to having a business and suddenly there's nobody saying you have to do that thing, what happens? You're like, oh, I'm just going to focus on this part I like, and everything goes to hell. So, anyway, for me, this is a very powerful technique of just blocking out all distractions and just forcing myself to use sheer discipline to stay in my seat and do the thing. But what happens each time that you make yourself do that thing and your world does not implode? Oh my gosh, you didn't lose any friends or any parties or any opportunities because you actually got your work done. It becomes easier to do it again and again and again. And it's building a muscle. And I like to think like 35 years later, I still ride that same momentum wave. I know I just need to discipline myself and do it, block the time. And as I was telling one of my private clients on Monday, I'm like, on how to get more done in your day. I said, don't go to your computer and take a deep dive into email. Don't trick yourself, as we do probably almost every day, by going, you know what? I'll just go through. I just want to get this off my plate so I don't have this hanging over my head. No, you look at your email just long enough to make sure there isn't something ROI driven, AKA a customer who wants to give you money or a technical emergency that you need to solve immediately. Most of you don't have that sort of issue. I do because we have memberships. But you don't clear your inbox. Instead, you start on the big rock item for the day to absolute no other distraction until it is done. When it's done, then you can decide, is it another big rock, or is there busy work you need to do? Because if you just focus on the busy work, you're never going to ever get to any of the big rock things that move you forward. And big rocks could be little rocks that form a big rock, like your social media presence and building your following. It could be other things like billing. I don't know, but they're out there and you need to focus on them. So who finds that the sheer act of discipline of putting it in the calendar and removing the distractions and doing it, that is literally a way to strengthen the muscle of being able to accomplish that thing that you thought you couldn't do? This one might not apply so much like to sales and whatnot, but it's very powerful for moving yourself forward. Ari says, I have a client who follows the Wim Hof model and stands in a cold shower 10 minutes each morning so she knows she's already done the hardest thing. Oh, I've never heard of the Wim Hof method used for that. I actually encountered it when I was overcoming long COVID, and I used it for that. But yeah, an ice cold shower is really hard. I would say as an adult, an example that I did was I had, from stem cells, I ended up with insulin resistance, a weird long story. High dose stem cells, insulin resistance. How do you break insulin resistance? Keto is a great way. And I just kept not ever doing it successfully. And finally, I committed to kicking off a 30-day keto cycle by fasting for 24 hours. And for those of you who fast, that might not seem like a big deal. But for somebody who spent 53 years of my life eating whenever I felt like it, the idea of not consuming anything but water for 24 hours seemed impossible. And I'd never done it before and had all sorts of reasonings why I would fail or why it wasn't worth it. And upon completing a 24-hour fast, recognizing that I could restrict something so vital and critical to my existence and survive it and be all the stronger for it, oh my gosh, so empowering. So sometimes just doing that seemingly impossible thing can make you feel invincible. All right, Linda says, I have this challenge, very easily distracted. Thanks for the reminder of Big Rocks from Stephen Covey. Is that where it comes from? I know it from Pat Schuler, who probably said it was Stephen Covey. All right, Janine says, I go through cycles with my focus. There are days when I knock out the big rocks first, and then other days when I just can't see to remove the distractions. I am a work in we are all a work in progress. Today I was like, I'm gonna do some emails. I looked at the clock and I'm like, you're killing yourself, but it happens. This is a cycle, and it's the beautiful thing about being self-employed is that no one's telling us how we have to do something. And Jillian says, I love keto and intermittent fasting. Lost 93 pounds so far. That's awesome. I actually reversed my insulin sensitivity or my insulin resistance. I lost 50 pounds. And I lowered my inflammation to normal levels, which I have 3 inflammatory conditions. I was told I would never have normal inflammatory rates levels. And then I broke my shoulder last July, and I haven't been in ketosis 1 second since. Work in progress, All right, Ari, you need to run. Thanks. Okay, well, the other 2 will be in the recording. So great having you here, Ari. See you later. All right. So this one is what I call fear of missing out. This is number 4 of 5. And this is a pretty simple one, in my opinion. And this is where we're using negative reinforcement instead of positive reinforcement. I've seen this show up in examples of your life passing before your eyes, doing a tombstone exercise or a funeral exercise. It's basically where you close your eyes or you journal out. I'm going to use the funeral exercise. So this is, you get to be an invisible guest at your own funeral. And yeah, I know it's dire, but again, sometimes negative reinforcement, it's worked really well for me in my life. I don't know, that might be sad, but I don't care because it helps me achieve my goals. Anyway, so I came across these exercises again early in my life. And so you're a guest at your own funeral. Nobody can see you, but obviously they're there to celebrate your life or talk about you. What is everybody going to say? And I'll just use myself as an example. Like, would I want everyone to say, poor Laura, she had all these health conditions, but she never would take disability, and she just worked so hard, and I'm trying to think of negative things to say. She just never seemed to get ahead of the illnesses and the pain and the sickness. And, I'm really impressed by the fact that she stayed self-employed all those years. But gosh, she had a hard life. No, no, I don't want anybody to say anything like that about me. I want them to say, oh, Laura, oh my God. And I'm not trying to brag here. Okay, I'm really not. But the vision in my head of why I do work and exist and overcome is, Laura never let anything hold her back. Laura always showed up with a smile on her face, no matter how much pain she was in. Laura kept learning, kept driving, kept helping. She made a difference to so many people in so many environments, and she loved to learn. In other words, you see here, if you think from where you're at right now, what you've possibly achieved, done, not achieved, not done, what does that story you're leading up to look like? If your life was to suddenly pass before your eyes, would you be grateful? Would you be proud? Would you be happy? Or would you be bitter and pissed off and remorseful that you didn't do more, take more chances, whatnot? There's a great movie with Meryl Streep called Defending Your Life. And it's about having a courageous life. And it's somewhat of a comedy because there's the people who had the courageous, amazing lives, and they're celebrating video clips of their amazing life, helping the old lady across the street, doing something they were scared to do. And Meryl Streep is falling in love with a guy, and she gets to eat all this amazing food. and he's in the cheap hotel in the waiting area, um, eating lousy food and watching clips of all the times he chickened out or whatnot. It's just a great movie, because he does have to overcome fears to be with her. But anyway, I found this very empowering, all the way back to the time in high school where I had written a beautiful poem, just some of my best work ever. And some of you know my bachelor's is in creative writing. And I was so proud of it, but I was too scared to get up and read my own poem in class. And so I had another student do it. But you know what? My poem had a voice. It had a I can't even think of the word right now, but it had a certain way it needed to be read to be powerful. And this person got up and read it, and it was like stop, start, break, pause. It was horrible. And I carried that with me forever, that my own fear took something that I thought was so wonderful and just made it into mud. Um, so this is very powerful, and I'll have things happen like it's not uncommon to go to a Hawaiian restaurant. I dance Hawaiian hula, and a musician's playing along, and he starts a song I know, and he knows I know it, and he's like, come up and dance. And I have like split second to decide, am I going to get up? Will he play a version I know? Will I make a fool of myself? Whatnot? But I jump really quick in my head to how I'm going to feel on the way home if I just sat there. Sorry, that's very visceral for me, because something of such great joy to me is to get up and dance. And I will get up every single time unless I physically can't, because it brings me such joy. And I don't know, sorry, we're in a negative consequence subject here. I don't know if I don't dance that time, if I'm ever going to get to dance again. I could be in an accident on the way home. My stem cells could fail and I'm getting fitted for a wheelchair. We have no idea about our futures, no matter how hard we're working to make them fabulous. So if negative motivation is possibly what it takes to motivate you, take a look at that future. What are they going to say about you, and how can you change that trajectory by being motivated to do the things that you're scared to do? So again, I know that's a negative one. A lot of people react strongly to negative reinforcement. Janine says, we are not promised tomorrow. Do everything you can today. Enjoy life. And that's the thing, too, is a lot of times the things that scare us the most are the things that make us the happiest and give us the most joy. So absolutely. So anybody find fear to be motivational like me? Let me know in the chat. Okay, last one. The fifth one is busting entrenched beliefs. So when I became a certified money mastery mindset coach, I learned a powerful guided activity. It's called the Money Breakthrough Method, and it's created by Kendall Summerhawk, who some of you met at one of CDI's early conferences when I had her in to do a half-day workshop. But she's an incredible coach. Anyway, so I shared this in a group session, CDI group session during COVID quarantine. That's in the member section, although we're going to go through it today. It's also part of the 6-figure flight plan, and I've had opportunities to use it with members when mindset and barriers come up. So it's super powerful when you have a block, like around what to charge. Sorry, my cat just jumped on my lap and distracted me. So for example, I knew this woman. I would see her at conferences initially that I attended, and we always turned to pricing as a subject that she struggled with. And I would give her an idea, and she'd go and raise her prices, and she'd be happy. And years later, she's a CDI member, and she decided to work with me privately. And pricing is still an issue, and our prices are still, while they've been raised, they've only been raised a little bit each time, and she's still so greatly undervaluing herself. So I was like, all right, I've given you the concrete strategies that's only gotten you this far. You're very resistant to raising your prices, although it's the very thing you're telling me you need to do. So can we do this exercise to identify where what the block is and what's causing it? And she let us do that. So it's a 6-question process, and it's really cool. And I'm going to walk you through it now. You are welcome to make notes, write stuff down if you want to run through it. I'll be doing it rather quickly, though, being this live stream that we're doing. But anyway, in her case, I'm going to try to share about it as we go forward, kind of using her as the example. So it's 6 questions. The first one, we identify the situation that is the block. So what's the situation? What's your block? And in this case, I'm using, I can't raise my prices. That's where I'm blocked. I can't seem to raise my prices. The second question is, what are you afraid of or concerned about? So in this case, we're going to say, it just feels wrong, greedy, even though I'm putting in so many hours and still struggling. I'm putting in so many hours on these projects and my clients are successful. I'm just not making enough money for the time that's involved. But, I don't want to be selfish or unfair, right? Okay, so everybody with me? Hopefully. The third question, what is the underlying need? So with this one, we've got 4 things that come up and it's quite possible that there's more than one need that this situation is bringing to light. These are love, security, approval, and significance. So is this that she's seeking, needing love? No. Security? Well, yeah, there's security there. Important, a need to feel significant? Well, yeah, sort of. But approval. This is definitely about trying to have the approval of the customer she's making the quote to. So in this case, it's approval. If you find yourself doing this exercise in your block, like I said, it's, I see security, approval, significance. Which one is tugging the hardest? That is the one to use for this exercise. All right, the 4th question. What is the belief or statement that is driving that need? Or what are you telling yourself that's motivating that need? And in her case, it was very simple. No one would pay that. No one would pay more than that. Wow, no one would pay more than that. That's very interesting, strong belief that's coming up. So question 5 is where it gets a little hairy, because in question 5, you're asking yourself, who did you make this agreement with? So I'm sorry I had to put a lozenge in my mouth. The tickle is too real, and I hope now I'm going to look more chubby cheeked. Anyway, so who did you make the agreement with? Super huge aha moment for her, in that until that moment, she had never recognized that this came from somebody, and I'm not going to give too much detail, but it had actually come from a conversation with a peer where she had excitedly shared her venture and what she was doing, and they had poo-pooed that anyone would ever pay real money for that. And in that moment, it struck her, I believe, was something around the idea of, I've been carrying that weight on my back all these years, and it wasn't even my own belief. It was something I let somebody else feed me. Super, super eye-opening. I actually have chills just thinking about it, because here's the deal. Most of our beliefs have nothing to do with us specifically. It could be coming from a grandparent who, I'm dating myself here, but, maybe one of the great grandparents or something, lived through the Depression or something, and, knows about lean times, or they were just brought up with a specific belief that was passed down to the family, like You don't waste money on anything but necessities. Um, there can be so many messages that we're given. Could be, just think of job seekers. Imagine if a job seeker, well, we know that they're fed in so many places during their life the belief that, you should be able to write your own resume, even though that's a falsehood that hurts them. It's an entrenched belief, and it would be, so you tell your wife, oh, found this amazing resume writer, I'm going to work with them, and your wife is like, why would you pay good money for that? We've got Word, or use the template, or copy Billy Joe's resume. And then you feel like a fool, but you might adopt this belief then that resume writers are con artists. So this is what happens, and it happens without our permission, and we just adopt it and carry it and carry it and carry it. So we come to the sixth question, and that is, can you forgive yourself for that agreement? Has nothing to do with making amends and going back to the person or telling them that they were wrong. It just has to do with, can you forgive yourself for buying into that for so long and free yourself of that belief? Now that you know it's no longer your knowledge that no one would pay for this, and you know the value of it, can you let it go? And if you can, then we get to flip the script and write a new belief. Like the new belief we might write for this situation is, as a resume writer and career coach, I help job seekers to land new roles 40 to 70% faster than on their own, typically with higher salaries. My service is worth its weight in gold, and I deserve to be just as successful and equally compensated as my clients become. That's just off the cuff, but you get the idea. That's a little long too. You might hone it down because you want to put it places. This is the motivational quote you put places to remind yourself every time you want to jump into that old thinking. I am valuable. My service has worth. Janine says, what a fantastic exercise. I raise my prices, but need to raise them even more. I now know how to get rid of my negative thinking. Thanks for that, Laura. Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah, those voices, they just like get you. And listen, if at the sixth one you can't forgive yourself, go back and do all six again and keep doing them until you're at a point where you can forgive yourself. And maybe try some of the other techniques if it's just not working. But most people can release it, but then it just becomes a matter of filling that vacuum with that new powerful statement that you want to live and believe. So I've heard from Janine. Thank you so much for letting me know those are powerful for you. Did anybody try that while I was talking? Run something through your head or write anything down? Come up with any surprises around a block? If so, please let me know in the chat. So those are my 5 for today. There are lots of amazing things that you can do. I have studied a lot of NLP techniques and neuroplasticity. I used to run a group called Brain Over Pain. We talked a lot about tapping and EMDR and other therapies of retraining your brain. There are so many things you can do. This is just the 5 across the spectrum from NLP to negatively motivate yourself that I find to be my favorite. So I would love to hear from anyone. If you have a technique that you like, definitely let me know. But hopefully, I know Janine and a few others let me know you've had some light bulb moments. And this is just a muscle. Even if you feel weak and flabby today, if you pick an action and commit to it, you will strengthen it to the point where you ever wondered why you were worried about a weakness in the first place. Like, for instance, some of you know, I held off. So funny. I held off doing live streams forever because, like, quote, I could stand in front of an audience of 500 people I could see and do a keynote, and I could dance a solo in front of thousands that I could see. But the whole idea of like having to talk into the void, I don't know who's listening, who's silently judging me, was horrifying. And now I'm like a little ham and I love it. And I just had to create a structure to make it happen. You just have to commit. I believe in you. And from my years of coaching and consulting with countless job seekers, career industry pros, small business owners, I know that you have boundless potential. You just have to get started. So who's with me? If you heard something that motivated you, let me know in the chat. Maybe give me a hashtag I can or a hashtag got this. Let's see. Dustin says, I really love that framework. I've been challenged with a similar belief on pricing, likely from how I grew up, that I've been working through as I gain experience in the industry. I'll be applying this as I continue to build my business. Awesome. That makes me so happy. It's so cool. It really, I've used it. I love it. Janine, you are great. It's because you are genuine. The live sessions are great. Oh, thank you. So, all right. So next Wednesday at a regular time of 3:45 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing something a little bit different. It's going to be interesting because I'm going to have a lot of you on the inside with me that are often on the outside. Since we're closing CDI Association membership registration on Friday the 15th, which is just next week, that's the first time we've ever done this in 19 years that we're going to close registration, and then there's just going to be the wait list. I've actually invited some remarkable guests to join me next Wednesday and share about their CDI journey and what they have gained from it. So if you join us next week, we'll be just sharing like stories of success and strategy, but I will have guests with me of Dr. Janine Bennett of Vision to Purpose, Deborah L. Schuster of the Lettersmith Resume Service, Marianne Bernard of the Regency Group, Laura M. Lebovich of the Career Strategy Group, Bridget Batson of Houston Outplacement Resume Writing and Career Counseling, Beverly Smith of Career Success Strategies, and Ari Schaefer of Arisha Schaefer Coaching and Consulting. So CDI and me, we're just all about helping you and your clients to maximize your potential and success. So if you're not yet a member or want to chime in with the chat on why membership has also been valuable to you, I really hope that you will join us. Let's see. Linda says, hashtag I can. I really love that framework as well. I'm in a low energy period, and this has given me some things to work on. Thank you, Laura. You're very welcome. Thank you for letting me know. Thanks also for doing this at this time of day. I can't usually make it from Australia. Oh, good. I hoped that varying the time from our normal CDI events would make it more accessible for people. So I'm really glad to hear that you managed to join and that it worked for you. All right, so I told you about next week. Hold on, the lozenges got stuck on the side of my mouth. So for anybody who isn't a member yet, make sure that you go over to the CDI site because there's a lot of great resources there. Let me throw up here on the screen. If you go over to careerdirectors.com and click on the free stuff or use this URL, you can learn about our community that you don't have to be a CDI member to join, but we have great daily prompts for networking and getting to know each other, support each other, and take advantage of those strategies of referrals and support in growing our businesses. We have a whole bunch of free lessons, best practice tip sheets, and whatnot to introduce you to the ROI of CDI membership. And because there is so much to pick from, I always recommend you take the quiz. It'll take you about a minute to take the quiz, maybe a couple minutes, but you'll get curated from me the list of the free resources telling you where to start. And these aren't powder puff resources. These are real member benefits that we've opted to make available to our audience. And we actually even have a testimonial from well, he is a member now, but at the time he wrote it, he built a six-figure income from Nigeria just using the free resources. And now he is a CDI member taking advantage of that. So if you already are a CDI member, I did create another bonus prompt for you guys this week. So since we talked about mindset, my prompt will let you ask ChatGPT or the AI of your choice for detailed NLP strategies to overcome a specific block, which I think is pretty super cool. So it will give you even more ideas than I have shared so far today with the 5. So If you like this and you want more, be sure to follow, follow. I can't even think of the other word. That's sad. But click the button to get reminders so that you can join me every week at 3:45 Eastern on Wednesday. And with that, I thank you for joining me. I look forward to having you all contact me and tell me about busting through those blocks and barriers and boundaries and the success that you reach through these live shows and through being part of CDI. Until next time, let's all fly higher. Thanks, everybody.